Tips on digital painting. What more can I say? This is going to be it's kind of an introduction to digital painting. And if you've never, by the way, if you already know how to paint things digitally, this is not the video for you, and that's okay. I have other videos. Please feel free to check them out. But if you find yourself painting and your painting is not quite up to the level that you want it to be, then chances are there are a few things that I see kind of left out of most online instructions of digital painting or something. There are a few things that you should keep in mind. First of all, first thing is first is that hopefully you have a tablet. If you do not have a tablet, if you don't have a tablet, then you're not going to be able to digital paint. And so at this point, now there was, believe it or not, there was a time where people were actually saying things like, well, you can paint with the mouse and it's a little difficult. No, we're past that now. It's 2016 as of this recording, and you need a tablet in order to digital paint. That is the first thing about digital painting. The second thing is this. When you get your program, and no, this goes across to any program, the first thing that you want to do is look at your brushes, familiarize yourself with the layout, first of all. Second of all, what you want to do is see how heavy your hand is. I am a very heavy-handed person, and so I press really hard on mostly everything, and I do it, and I really do have to be cognizant of trying to press lighter on things. So once you get your tablet, you want to figure out how it is that you are going to start to paint. And so pay very close attention to your heavy-handedness, and you may have to go in and you may have to adjust things. I'm here in Sketchbook Pro, and they have a stylus responsiveness. Mine is more responsive. Maybe if I put it on less, but it still does no good. I still press really, really hard. So that's just me. That's something that I have to, when I'm going in and doing blending, that's something I have to be very, very aware of. And these are not things that are just little things where you can kind of roll your eyes and, oh, well, that's not really that important. It's very important to find out how heavy-handed you are and to know how you make marks, because I've said over and over again that I am slightly better on analog or through traditional media than I am from going to digital. And I know that there are certain things that I would much rather just scan in pencil wise and then maybe ink them digitally and then paint them digitally. So those are things that I have to be aware of. Now, the other thing is that the second thing about digital painting is that I would say, or the third thing, don't let a lot of the things that you see on the internet have you think that that is the only way. I know that there is a big kind of school of, let me just throw a quick example here. And so maybe this is the horizon. We'll kind of make that. Let's just go ahead and put this. So I've got this horizon here. And you see a lot of this when it gets to speed painting. First of all, speed painting is something that a lot of artists do. It's kind of a way to show off, and that's not a bad thing. I don't mean show off in some sort of negative connotation, but it's a way to show all of the skills that you have as a painter. But the problem is that a lot of younger artists think that speed painting is the way to paint, and so you'll see something like this where there's a big block in of the brushes, and you see the artist that'll go down, they'll make some marks on the paper, and it's really, really messy, and it looks like this, and then they'll just start. And when they're trying to instruct you, when I'm saying that in air quotation marks, then it becomes, I just want to get the color down and I want to do this. And so what you don't see with that artist is that even though you see them doing this, chances are, if you look at their portfolio and they're a very good artist, they didn't get that way by doing this. They've just been doing it so long that they understand form, and they understand contour, and they understand a lot of the basic concepts of painting. And so you, as an artist who is not as experienced, may try and go in and do the same thing and try to take this and turn this into something, and you're not quite able to do it. It becomes this amazingly difficult thing to see someone do this, and all of a sudden it magically becomes a painting. Also keep in mind that when you see a speed painting, it is just that. It is sped up from what you're seeing, and most speed paintings are a few hours long. So it looks very easy, but I kind of look at it like it's a bit of a magic trick. And not that anyone's being deceitful, but if you're not an experienced artist, then you are kind of looking at it a little bit different. You are kind of looking at it in a way that may not, you're looking at it through inexperienced eyes as far as painting. So I would say, don't necessarily think that you have to be a speed painter or do speed painting, or that is the way to do it. Because on my forum, I've gotten into disagreements with people where I can tell that they've been looking at a lot of speed painting stuff and they think that they can do the same thing. Well, that's not true. So that's why one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to make this little handy dandy guide to getting started before you get started on digital painting. So if I'll just recap just a little bit what I've gone over so far, make sure that you get a tablet. Make sure that you get a program or the software that you enjoy. I enjoy Sketchbook Pro. I don't paint in Photoshop a lot. I want to go in and start to paint a little bit in Photoshop, because I think that it's a little bit, I think it's better for me than it was before, and that's just a personal preference. This is not disparaging Photoshop or anybody that's doing it, but for a long time Photoshop was not the program that was just working for me. And the other thing that I want to say, that if you are going to use Photoshop, I would say stick to just a few brushes. Don't necessarily worry about there's this I think a cottage brush industry in Photoshop, to where people just tend to grab a bunch of brushes, because there are literally thousands of brushes for Photoshop, and a lot of them are stamps, and a lot of them are if you are not an experienced painter, you think that you could probably just maintain some sort of career with Photoshop by just taking like 5 different tree brushes because you saw your favorite digital artist or your favorite artist do the same thing. That's not really helping you out, especially if you don't know how to paint. So if you don't know how to paint, then digital painting, you're not automatically, it's not going to solve any of the problems that you may have had with painting. And I'm going to do a video that has a bunch of suggestions for art books that you should be looking at, and you could apply them to digital as well. I would say that get yourself a book, and get a book or take some sort of online course on painting. And it doesn't necessarily have to be digital painting, but I would say take a course on painting and apply that to your digital tools. It's very, very, very important, as I sit here with this mess in front of me. because I think that you need to learn some of the theories and fundamentals if you're not an artist. And someone, I believe it's Noel Zilla, asked me, can I do a video on how to paint backgrounds? And so for those of you that are looking to do things like paint backgrounds, that's an entire huge subject that people haven't devoted their lives to, painting scenery. And that comes in all shapes and sizes. So it's just not one thing. So let me get back to some of the things that you should know about digital painting. Once you've got your software and you have your software of choice, the first thing that you absolutely should do is go through each one of your brushes and figure out how to use your brush engine. So now, since I teach a course on Sketchbook Pro and how to use and how to create your own custom brushes, and I just had a video up about creating your own custom brushes, I would say that that is one of the most important things that you can do. So if I go in and I make these lines here, and I don't know why I'm just making these random lines, but I am. I need to go in and I need to figure out, and there are plenty of tutorials on Photoshop brush engines. I also mentioned mine. There are tutorials on Clip Studio Paint, which I also have a version of, that can teach you how to create custom brushes. But you need to go in and tweak each one of these settings for all of your brushes. So for this synthetic paintbrush set, if I'm looking at it, I have went in and tweaked these settings for it, and I've rearranged my brush order so that the brushes that I use the most when I want to use this particular set are at the top. And so let's say I want to change this. If I'm looking here, and maybe I should do this. So let's say I'm just trying to put in some lines here, and maybe I'm not really enjoying the way that this is. Maybe I'm not enjoying the way that this gives me. It's too sharp for me. So let me see what happens if I soften this up. And I'm softening it up. I like this a little bit better. And so I'm going in here and I'm just tweaking the settings on this. So I'm also paying attention to brush with the radius with heavy pressure. I'm very heavy-handed. So that's going to increase the size of it. And brush with light pressure. So if I go really light, then it's going to give me these thinner lines. I may not like that for that. Maybe with lighter pressure I still want to keep consistently big, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. So I'm just tweaking this. The spacing. Spacing can change a lot on your brushes. And look at this. This gives me a much softer, more grittier texture. This gives it a much more texture. Usually when you increase the spacing on your brushes, it's going to give you a bit of a texture. And so maybe I want to keep it like this. And there are so many other settings in there. Whatever your respective brush engine is, go in and figure out how to work your brush engine and go through all of these brushes, go through all the brushes. If you get a set of brushes, and figure out if it's something that you want to use. You may even see that there's a brush that you don't like. So that is that. The other thing that I would like to mention is this. I'm going to go ahead and merge this down, and I'm going to delete this layer. Now, when you are painting, without going through each one of these tabs, because like I said, I've already done that already with the course. It's free. Yeah, I know. That's called marketing, people. But anyway, kind of losing my train of thought here a little bit. So I went over. You want to go in and play with the brushes and see what they do. Now, the other part of this is that when you are painting something, take your time. It's very important to take your time with this. And so I'm doing this right now, and I know that if I keep doing this, it's going to give me this consistency right here. If I go up and down, I know that this brush fades, but I can get this little bit of it's picking up. I'm trying to pay attention to the behavior of my brush. But I noticed that if I just went in and just put in some things, this makes everything kind of chaotic, and maybe this is just a personal preference of mine. I tend to like to go in with some sort of, like, I don't particularly care for this brush for this demonstration, but there are certain brushes to where you want to go in a certain direction and you want to think about your strokes when you're making them. And I like to keep things pretty neat. And so I'm just doing this. What I'm not doing is this. So what you saw is me going in one direction. This is one direction. Now if I came back over, and so I'm going one direction here. Now if I came back over here, that's still me going in one direction. This brush behaves a little bit differently. That's something that I want to keep in mind, as opposed to me doing this. And I'm thinking that I'm just going into, and I'm treating this like maybe it's a block-in brush. If you look at my last video on creating a custom brush, I show you how to make your own block-in brush. But don't treat the rest of your brushes like they are block-in brushes. And that's just my personal preference, the way that I like to paint. So, and as I start to paint a lot more digitally, I notice that there's things from my analog painting that I do that are not necessarily going to, that I can change when I paint digitally. And what I normally like to do is, if I am painting over a pencil sketch, I like to go with I like to feel out the form of the object that I'm looking at. And I do like to go in and take my time. I don't, considering that I'm working on a mobile game, some of this stuff doesn't apply, and I really don't have a lot of time for me to go in and really just paint for fun anymore. It's one of those things that I like to do, to go with the direction and go with the flow of the form, instead of me just being very chaotic and messy. That's another thing that you want to keep in mind. And I think I probably titled this video "Beginning Tips for Digital Painting," and I think that's probably will be a good title for this. So I talked about going into the form of this. Now the other part of this is that keep in mind of your blending tools and how they behave. This cannot be underestimated as I go ahead and switch up to this. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And I'm going to increase my brush size. By the way, another quick tip right here. If you increase your bracket size, usually you are going to increase your brush size. Maybe I'll do an entire separate video on blending, but this is on Sketchbook Pro, this is a way to blend. There's more than one way to blend. I think I will do a blending video. And you see I'm going with the flow of this. That's what I'm doing. I'm just blending this in. Now I easily could have used, say, the brush here. This is a chalk brush. It's not really a blending brush. Let me see, acrylic soft hard, acrylic soft. So let's say I look at this acrylic brush right here, and let me see where I'm at. Red. I'll just put a yellow in maybe. So I'm just going to go right here. And I probably would have gone with a bigger brush for that. But if I go in here, I'm on here in most programs, the eyedropper tool, I can hit Alt. Make sure that you know what your respective tool is. So I'm hitting Alt, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to hit right in here, and I could blend it this way, and maybe I'll go with even a softer brush. And that's way too big. But if I go with a softer brush, I can blend that. And I can choose right here, and I'm trying to get this as smooth as possible. But you see I'm kind of going with the form of this right here. I'm going with the form of this painting stroke that I put down. So that's one of the things that you should absolutely keep in mind, is how you are going to use your blending tools. And I think that the blending tools are very important, because it's going to determine, a lot of that determines your style. You don't have to have a necessarily smooth, pristine style. You also can blend with a gradient tool and figure out how your gradient works. But that's going to be, I'm gonna make a separate video for how to blend, a blending video, because I need to make one. But these are just some tips that I want you to keep in mind when you are starting out to digital paint. And I would say in the very beginning, and this is just my own personal preference, this is one of the things that helped me out. If you are I want to say draftsman or draftsperson, and you draw with pencil. Draw with pencil and scan in your pencil drawings, or if you just do pencil digitally, then do it that way, and then paint with that. And so you can put your pencil drawing on top, and you could paint underneath, and there are different techniques to do that. Like I said, these are just some quick tips for me but don't walk away from your drawing if that's your strength. Don't be intimidated or don't be swayed, I guess, by someone who paints in form, which is great, and you want to get to that level if you so choose to, but don't think that that's the only way to paint something. The other thing is that there are a bunch of little tutorials that are like these little one-sheets that you can use to paint, and maybe I'll do a separate video on those as well, because I love looking at other artists' techniques. I may not necessarily want to watch a video or buy an entire something or whatever, or go to an entire workshop for a day. That'd be cool if I had the time. But for certain things, like there are little tutorials that I'm going to share those with you probably in another video. Because I'm doing this a lot more now. So you guys will be seeing more videos from me. I just wanted to give some quick tips. If I think of anything else, I can always make another video. Thank you very much for your time. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And I think that is going to be it. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, or you can watch another video. But what I'd really like for you to do is to press or click right there where it says free stuff, because I got some free art lessons and free samples that I want to give to you. So go ahead, grab some free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff. Yay. See you next time. Peace.